Today I'm going to show you how I do the duplicate stitch, which I use on my Millennial Tee design to add on some plaid striping on top of a simple boxy tee design. So in this design I use both vertical and horizontal duplicate stitch, so I'll be showing you both of these techniques. First up, we'll do the vertical duplicate stitch. So you'll need your work, and then you'll need whatever color yarn you're using for your duplicate stitch threaded onto a tapestry needle. I recommend only really using a couple feet at a time, because if you use too much, it'll just get in the way when you're doing your duplicate stitch, and you can just keep adding segments as you run out. So to start out, you're basically going to thread from the back, and you're going to come up through the bottom of a V stitch here. So the needle is coming through the very bottom of this V, and I'll pull it through all the way to basically the end of my piece of yarn, leaving a little tail. Now you're basically going to follow this column of stitches all the way up. So it's coming out of the bottom, and then you're going to want to go around under here and back down. So the next step is to go under the stitch above, the two legs of the stitch above. Pull your yarn through. And then last, you're going to go back down through the bottom. And now I like to do this in a simultaneous step, but you'll want to go through the bottom of this one, and then you'll want to come back out through the next stitch above. So you can either do it one step, go down through here, and then thread it through the back, but I find it easiest to just basically catch this little piece of yarn there, pull your yarn all the way through. You want to kind of keep it somewhat tight, but not actually tight, but you don't want it to be too loose, because once you've done too much, it can be really hard to go back and adjust. So I would say every couple stitches, kind of adjust your tension. So I'm at the bottom of this stitch here, and I'm going to go under the two legs of the stitch above. Pull it through. And then I'm going to go through the bottom of that stitch, catch the yarn underneath, and pull up. So now I'm coming out of the bottom of this stitch here. Go under the two legs of the stitch above. And then back through the bottom and out the bottom of the next stitch. So you can see I'm creating a line of a different color on top of the column of stitches that I'm doing duplicate stitch on. It's with this type of duplicate stitch, it can be a little bit bulky, and you sometimes need to sort of just shift the yarn around a little to get it to cover up the stitch as you like, but that's just the nature of this type of stitch. And you just keep going until you reach wherever you want to stop. In this case, basically the top or the bottom of this section on your tee. So as I said, you just keep working until you reach the end of your section that you're doing duplicate stitch for. So in this case, I'm just going to the other end of my swatch. In the pattern, you'll be going to the top or the bottom of the piece of, like, either the front or the back. And when you're on your last stitch, so this is my last stitch here, I've gone through here, and instead of going down and up to start the next stitch, I'm just going through the bottom of that stitch and pulling the yarn through towards the back. So now you see I've got this line of duplicate stitch on my swatch, and you would just continue in this manner as you need for your pattern. With the vertical stitch, like I said before, it can be a little bit bulky just because it's just the manner of the technique, but it does sort of relax a bit with blocking. So it might seem a little bit stiff as you're working it, but it will block out to be a little more relaxed, and you can kind of shift the pieces around a little bit, you know, if there's a segment where the bottom's showing through. I don't personally mind it with a little bit of the yarn peeking through, but if you want to, you can play around with it a little bit to cover it up better. You ideally should be using a yarn that's the same weight or thicker in order to do duplicate stitch, because if you use a thinner yarn, you're not going to cover up the stitch below very well. You'll see a lot of the underlying stitches if you use, say, like a fingering weight on top of a DK. So this is DK on DK, covers up pretty well. You just need to shift around a little bit to cover those couple little sections that are poking through. So that's the vertical duplicate stitch, and we'll go ahead and show you the horizontal next. So for the horizontal duplicate stitch, basically we're doing a similar thing where we're just weaving yarn across a row of stitches horizontally. This technique's a little bit different because you can basically follow one strand of yarn and just like weave your needle over top of that stitch. So I'll show you if, let's say, we're starting on this side here. So like we did on the vertical stitch, you're going to poke through the bottom of a stitch where you're starting. Whoops. Not long enough piece of yarn. Okay. So we'll start the bottom of this stitch. Pull your yarn through till you just got a little tail left. And then you're going to do like we did in the vertical, you're going to go under the two legs of the stitch above. Pull your yarn through. And now this one, instead of going down and then up to the next stitch, see how this piece of yarn goes, it just kind of weaves all the way across. You're just going to follow that. So we're going to follow this one, go under the two legs of the next stitch below. Then it goes up like this. So we're going to go under the next two legs of the stitch above, and then follow it down, go through the legs of that stitch below, follow this up under those two legs, follow this down, so then you'll go under the two legs of that stitch below, back up, and you're just doing this back and forth all the way across this row of stitches. This one I find is a lot easier because you're following like one single row of stitches, and also it's a little less bulky just because of the because you're not going like in and out of the same stitches to go vertically, you're going horizontally. It's less bulky. I find it covers up the stitches a little bit better and is just overall an easier technique. But obviously, if you need to go do a vertical stitch as well, there is a good method for that, like I just showed you previously. Oops, yarn came out of the needle. So by going, you're just following this one strand sort of as it goes along this row. So it's pretty simple, it's pretty easy to, stay on track, make sure you're staying on the right row, and you get this nice clean duplicate stitch going horizontally. So you can see, like, it's a lot less bulky than the vertical, and this one, it's great because it stretches really great with the natural fabric, and it does a much better job of covering the stitches underneath. But both are great techniques, and you'll use both of them in the Millennial Tee design of mine that this tutorial is for. And I hope that this was beneficial to you, and I hope you enjoy either your Millennial Tee or whatever other pattern you're using this technique for. Have a great day.